the first thing I would like to do is introduce the panel. And so I'm just going to start with Professor Rick Smith, since you're kind of the head of the department. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and provide a little bit of information of who you are for this session.
Thanks, Brittany, and thank you to the Alumni Association Council and all those involved in planning this. My name is Rick Smith. I'm an associate professor of sport management and the lead instructor for the program. And this year I have the privilege or punishment, I guess depends on how you look at it. I look at it as the privilege of serving as the department chair of our business and economics department. Sport management here has grown tremendously. This is my 7th year here. Previous to Marietta College, I worked in college athletics at a Division I institution. And before that, also in alumni relations and teaching, and currently also have my side hustle of doing some consulting work with a software program that is in the hands of over 600 clients around the world, most of those being sports programs and sports teams. Brittany, that's my background. Did I miss anything?
No, that sounds good. Thanks so much. And I'll be circling back to you and asking you a couple of questions. For our current students, I'll start with Kaylee and then we can kick it over to Tyler. Feel free to introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about you.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Kaylee Ward. I'm a junior from Akron, Ohio. On campus, I'm obviously a sport management student with a minor in coaching and communications and a leadership certificate. While on campus, I work in the Career Center and Study Abroad office, and I'm also the president of our Sports Business Association.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kaylee. Tyler.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Johnston. First and foremost, just want to say thank you so much for having us on here. I'm also a junior. I'm from Granville, Ohio. And like Kaylee Ward said, I'm also a sport management major. I used to play baseball here at Marietta, but not anymore because that allowed me to kind of focus on what I wanted to do outside of baseball. And so that's where Rick Smith stepped in and kind of helped me pursue my career in this field. Around campus, I'm a resident assistant, and I'm also involved in other numerous extracurricular activities as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. And then let's kick it over to Gavin, our alum.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. So yeah, Gavin Linkus, class of 21, originally from Waynes, Ohio, Cincinnati, Dayton area. And then upon graduating, I went and got my master's of sport administration from Ohio University, and now got hired on full-time in April as the assistant athletic director of events and sport operations here for the athletic department. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us as well. So a lot of excitement around sports management. If you follow anything Marietta related, I feel like I'm seeing more and more about this department. So it's exciting. A little bit about myself. I'm just going to be the moderator today. As I mentioned, my name is Brittany Metcalf, class of 2013, from Houston, Texas originally. Live in Denver, Colorado now, and I'm currently a solution consultant for a tech company called ServiceNow, where I focus on employee workflows within the healthcare industry. So I did not come from the sports management department by any means, but I'm just here to kind of facilitate that conversation. So this is going to be a little structured, but again, we want this to be free flowing. If there's a question, please feel free to ask it. But we'll start kind of with the department itself, the state that it's in, where it was, the direction of it, and then pivot a little bit more into just the pure career. What can you do with this degree or coming out of this department? And then we'll finish up more generally around being part of the Long Blue Line and the benefits of Marietta College and the alumni network that we have. So let's start with the present. So should I call you Rick, Mr. Smith, Mr. Rick? I don't really know.
That's fine. Everyone calls me Rick. It's fine. I'm kind of casual. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right. So Rick, can you give us an overview of the current department offerings and which are the most popular that you're seeing amongst the students?
Well, business and economics is still the largest department on campus. We have about 280 students. I say about, that's pretty exact as I pulled the numbers today. Within business and economics, sport management is the second largest in there behind marketing. It seems like marketing and sport management, naturally I'm competitive, so we're always competing to see who has more students. Right now, sport management on the roster has 73 students as majors and minors, which is an all-time high. If you count the students that are in the coaching minor, which is outside of business and economics, but are required to take sport management courses. And if you count the students that are in the sport management introduction class that don't know what they're doing yet, I would say that number is closer to 110 that are taking the sport management classes. And I still talk with parents that come in, it's their 16 or 17-year-old son or daughter, and they want to go into sports. And the parent asks me, well, what can you do with a degree in sports? And my answer is that this is a degree in business. We still are grounded in accounting and economics, marketing and management, of course, the liberal arts. And then we take some sports business classes, sports marketing, sport event and facility management, sport law, 2 internships, sports economics. And so it's really still grounded in sport. We're not going out and playing home run derby or playing Quidditch. We're not doing that. We're learning how to manage those events, how to sell tickets and generate revenue for those events. Each student has to complete 2 internships. The 3 Marietta College, can't say students anymore, Gavin, you graduated. So the recent grad and the 2 students we have had some of the better internships that I'm sure they'll talk about. So that's the current state. Where we're going, I guess that depends on the students we enroll and the students that continue in the program. There are still a lot of students that come into the program that may have aspirations of being a professional athlete and may not cut it and get cut from their sports team and may naturally leave Marietta College. So the first year, our retention is always bouncy, but once we get to sophomore, junior year, it kind of steadies out. Next year already, this is not even February 1st, and today I sent 20 handwritten welcome notes to the 20 students who have deposited to come to Marietta College with a sport management as their number 1 choice. Not all of them will come. Some of them have deposited maybe to 5 or 6 schools, but that number 20 is higher than it's been before. Word is getting out that we are a premier program. We really pride ourselves on experiential education and getting hands-on learning. I would be remiss not to at least welcome Doug Mosley on the call, who is with ESPN Events. He's the director and the executive director, really, of the Boca Raton Bowl, who gave us one of our first opportunities to work at a college postseason bowl game. We're one of the only schools in the country that does that multiple times a year. And so it's opportunities like that, coupled with the Savannah Bananas, and you'll hear all about it later on, that really make us unique and prepare our students for a career outside of the locker room.
No, that's great. And I appreciate that recap. It definitely see the growth is there. And I even was curious myself of some of the engagement in the collegiate sports in the Savannah Bananas. And I was wondering kind of how that has become what it is. And I know we'll hear more about it, but circling back to the learning about business and economics, I was reading an opinion piece on New York Times today about NIL deals and how that's interrupting athletic departments and their budgets and stuff like that. And so this is a very important landscape that we're in. Things are new. But so let's kind of move on from that. And I know we'll dig more deeper into some of the things that you got to, Rick, but I do want to bounce over to Taylor and get an idea of kind of what your semester has looked like. What courses are you taking? What is your workload? And what has been some of your favorite things that you've done so far? I'm sorry, Tyler. So sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so this semester is definitely going to be a little bit busier for me than others. Right now, I'm in a couple sport management classes. One of them is actually my capstone. And so a cool thing that we do in our capstone is we completely host the community day for softball and baseball team. And so that's going to be a big project for us that I'm looking forward to. And we've had a couple meetings already, and it's definitely looking up to be a stressful one, but I'm excited to get into it. Another sport management class that I'm in right now is sports marketing as well. Rick, one of Rick's favorite classes to teach, and I can tell he's got a lot of enthusiasm in that class, and it's exciting. It's fun. Every class that he teaches has been, he puts forth his enthusiasm, and he really puts on for us as well. I'm taking a couple other communication classes because that's my minor, and a couple other, I'm taking art classes, graphic design, stuff like that, just because of the liberal arts education. So got to get those done, but it's definitely exciting. This semester's, it's shaping up to be a fun one with the capstone. That's definitely the class that I'm looking to put my foot in and really be involved in the most as I can, just because of what we get to do with all the professional development and with all the people that we get to meet and stuff like this as well. You know, this is an exciting opportunity for us just to be a part of.
Yeah,
Brittany,
absolutely.
if I may, I want to explain what Tyler just said. It's only the second week. If you want to talk to him in about 10 weeks and ask him how the capstone class is doing, I think he'll probably have a beer in hand and wondering what he's doing here. So the capstone class is the culminating project, and what he talked about with professional development, again, a career outside of the locker room. Every student, every week in that class has to do something for professional development. Resume review, cover letter, mock interview, informational interview, something in the industry, listen to an industry podcast, read an industry periodical, and then we come to class and discuss it. And so that's the weekly professional development, and we really put an emphasis on that.
That's great. And I love to hear also, Tyler, that you have a minor, something that's complementary. I think that's a great thing about sports management is there's a lot of other degrees or minors that are very complementary, or even some of the classes like graphic design. And going back to your point, Rick, about professional development, you know, it's like in the single digit percentage points of how many high school students become college athletes. And then it's like a single percentage of that single percentage that go on to play professionally. So it's very important that you have that life or that career outside of the locker room. So I appreciate that emphasis there. And so Tyler's experience is Tyler's experience. Let's hear what Kaylee is kind of going through right now.
Yeah, so I'm knocking on wood as I say this, but this semester doesn't seem to be too heavy. I'm used to taking 18 credit hours for multiple semesters, and this is one where I'm at 16 right now. A lot of my classes right now are business focused, like intro to advertising, sport law, negotiations for my junior core. And then I'm also in my leadership class for global leadership, which is definitely going to be an interesting one, especially with how heavily it relies and plays into sports, just working within different departments.
Awesome. And so, you know, that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about for the present, right? We can see that Tyler and Kaylee both are in kind of the same department, but are having very different paths, but being able to pursue things that they're interested in and they love. And then based on what Rick has been telling us, there's great growth and there's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement around this department. So to kind of rewind a little bit, we got the present state. Let's talk about a little bit about the past. So Rick, you know, how has the program evolved over the years? How have you gotten to, one, seeing highest level of enrollment, and two, you touched on this a little bit, but some of the internships and the exposure that your department is getting? How have you kind of grown over time?
Well, the growth is not a single person. The growth has been the college as a whole. Almost every single student in sport management is an athlete. And so when the coaches are recruiting athletes and they have many good stories to tell, one of them being sport management, it gives our prospective students a good choice, an array of great majors to choose from. In the past, sport management, goodness, I think it's 17, 18 years old now. It was started by Debbie Lazorick. Many of you remember Debbie Lazorick as the former athletics director, and then came over to teach. And then she retired, and then there was a one-year instructor, and then I've taken it from there. So Debbie really started this. She created it. I've come in and fine-tuned a couple of things, and probably put my own spin on it, and that would be the experiential education and the opportunity for students to do a lot of work outside of the classroom. So that's the history. It's relatively new. The sport management field as a field is probably only 50 or 60 years old. It seems like it's still young. There's still a lot of things to learn. Gavin mentioned he's at Ohio U. They were one of the first to create a program. and their master's program is still #1 in the world. And so it is still a race to see who does it best. There's over 400 in the world that serve an undergraduate population and 250 that have a master's degree. So there's a lot of schools that offer these types of programs. It's a difference of how you offer it and those industry connections you make that really make the difference between I graduated and I'm going to a career. I think that's the main difference.
Yep. Good points. And I think when I was in school, I thought sports management was basically to become a sports agent, right? And there's so much more to it. And like you mentioned, the business aspect, the experiential learning, so you can learn all different aspects of what sports management really is. And so you kind of mentioned going above and beyond with just graduating with this degree, but really having a career. So I think this is a good pivot to Gavin. You know, I know you're a recent grad, I think 2021, but what was your experience in the department when you were a student? What classes did you take? You know, what was some of that hands-on or experiential learning that you got to experience?
Yeah, I think a good portion of it was focused on, you know, where we can get our hands wet. As Rick said with Doug on the call, you know, I was one of the first people to go down to Boca. And so that was kind of the evolution of, you know, in order to broaden our reach and get our hands dirty per se. You know, we're starting to put the feelers out there. Hey, you know, can we get involved? And I think that kind of led to, you know, that was my freshman year. And it just grew from there. So I think it also ties into, you know, we've said it a couple times already, but really just like, you know, I was a sport management and marketing major with a communications minor. And so just trying to mix and match and figure out ways that, you know, it's easy to just look at kind of the high level positions in sport. But, you know, there's, the options are endless. And so I think that was something that, you know, as I was able to navigate through my 4 years, you know, different pieces are evolving, and they still are, as Brittany, you said, you know, NIL comes out. So it's just constantly, you know, evolving. And I saw that in my 4 years, but also, you know, that's how it was with the liberal arts education and, you know, whether it's taking an econ class or a finance class or management, all of those different industries are constantly changing. And it adds great perspective and can all be tied back into the sports industry.
Yeah. And so you mentioned kind of navigating your 4 years and probably fine tuning exactly what you were looking to really do or pursue. You know, I know you really enjoyed taking Rick's classes, but who were some of your other professors where you really enjoyed the class? So whether it was the professor or the class specifically, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about those experiences.
Yeah, well, obviously, Rick, I would get a text message saying, why not me? If I didn't say him. No, I'm just kidding. But no, Rick really opened my eyes into college athletics. And, you know, for a long time, I was sitting there thinking pro sports is where I wanted to work. And I think his knowledge on the college atmosphere helped shed a light. You know, obviously, professors, I know Julie is no longer a professor, but she shed great light, and Cheryl as well in the marketing department. But also people like Professor Delameister in econ just helped shed a light on the different industries and different aspects where it made it easy, you know, whether it's sports, you know, econ, where I was able to tie it back and say, hey, you know, this is, you know, the nature of revenue generation. And this is, you know, how you can project growth and different things like that, where I was able to tie those pieces into it.
Yeah, and I think for a complementary class like an econ class, sports econ, I know for me, I actually had a certificate in energy system studies, and econ as a whole is a pretty big topic, right? But when you compare it down to something very specific like sports or environmental economics like I took, I found it to really click and kind of understand the business side of all of that. So I love that you guys are getting that exposure even outside of just your generic sports management type of curriculum. So I'm going to pose a question to the panel here, and I'm going to start with Kaylee. What do you think the program should be focusing on going forward? It could be something small, it could be something large, but we know this field is forever changing, and it's a hot topic right now.
Yeah, so one thing that I think we've done well on is the hands-on learning experience. The thing that I think we should really focus on is the professional development. How do we put what we've done into words and into interviews and our resumes and everything like that can help us going forward? It's obviously a race and a competition to get an internship, a job. Like, the things we're doing really do set us apart, but if we can't vocalize that or write it down and like make us stand out, then we really need to hone in on it.
Those are good points, and definitely leverage the college, but don't forget to leverage the alumni council as well. And so I would definitely encourage you to do that, or your peers. That's what we're here to do, to help too. So then I'm going to actually pass it to Tyler. What are your thoughts?
I definitely agree with what Kaylee said. One thing that Rick has really implemented since we've been here is kind of pushing those professional developments. So he's a lot of our advisors. And so in order to even see him for advising, he has us go to the Career Center, and whether it's resume building or a mock interview or just something with the Career Center, and able to kind of get in there. And Rick understands the importance of professional development. And a lot of students kind of see that as, that's just another thing I have to do. But I understand it, and I understand that that's very important. But one thing that I think that we should really focus on in the near future is just kind of getting these younger students more involved and getting them with their minds in the right spaces with what we're trying to do. Because actually today I went and talked to our intro to sport management class and just kind of got a census of where they're at with everything. And I would just love to see them as involved and as excited as I feel like Kaylee and I were when we first came in with these classes.
So let me put you on the spot here for a second, Tyler.
Okay.
You mentioned you talked to the intro class. You'd like to see some of the underclassmen get more involved. How do you think we, for this Connect 4 series, could have done a better job at getting some of those folks here?
I definitely think that kind of making this, whether it's just sport management students or just business and economics students in general, just kind of posing this as an opportunity to hear from 3 different perspectives, because we have current, past, and leader. So being able to hear from these different perspectives, this is also a great opportunity to kind of get those younger students and get whether it's even full-time students, older upperclassmen, an opportunity to hear something from another side. So I know Rick definitely sent out an email to the sport management program as a whole, but I definitely think that whether it's posted on our My Marietta page or the daily newsletter or something along those lines, and just so people can see it and get it on their calendar, and posing that as an important thing that can help them and they can kind of open their eyes to something that we're all trying to do, I think that would definitely help.
Yeah, and I think, just putting you on the spot, I think that's great too, because obviously, to your point, right, you and Kaylee have very different experiences, and Gavin has a very different experience too. So I think the power of the network and hearing different stories is important. So thanks for kind of entertaining that question. Gavin, what do you think the department should focus on?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I left kind of thinking on is, it's easy to get kind of trapped in the pro setting and the college setting, but there's so many opportunities, whether it's in youth sports, rec sports, or even, working for like the IOC or someone like that. And just shedding some light on those pieces and different departments really can just gain a very, non-natural path into sports. However, a great perspective on the industry. So I think those are pieces that, can be added to the puzzle of a great, education. But also I would say just, reaching out, sending emails to alumni. Me and someone that graduated in the 20 class are both working for MAC schools. So just reaching out and having that conversation, I think is another crucial piece to that, what Tyler and Kaylee were talking about, that professional development.
Absolutely. And I think you as a recent grad too can appreciate that if someone reaches out to you from the college, either seeking advice or help, that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to kind of pay it forward. And so again, I think that's great advice to kind of reach out and do that. That's what we're ultimately here to do. So Rick, I'm going to leave that last question to you as well. Kind of,
Perfect.
I know you're the one that's kind of in charge of the curriculum, but where do you see kind of this going based on some of that feedback?
That's feedback I've heard before, and that's feedback that I want to address. There are a few gaps in our curriculum that I wish I could fill. I don't have the expertise to, and I hope one day to have that. First is outdoor recreation. We have enough outdoor recreation in the area, and there's enough experts in the field. We probably could create a minor in outdoor recreation. Community sport is another area I think we can do a better job focusing on. Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Parks and Recreation, things of that nature. Brittany, to your question about how to get more people here, it's, and Tyler said, I sent an email and Twitter and whatnot. I think it comes down to not offering extra credit. It comes down to not making it a class requirement. It has to be a culture change. And that's going to take years and decades. And I don't know if that starts with me. I don't know if it starts with the new freshman. I don't know if it starts with the president. It could start with everyone.
Sure.
But if there's an expectation that you're 5 minutes early to practice, and if there's an expectation that in petroleum engineering, you have an internship your freshman year, then there should be an expectation that in communications and marketing and sport management and art and theater, that you begin your professional development freshman year. And that is not something that one person can change.
I think that's great. Good points.
Last thing I'll say here, one big thing that I continue to focus on, and it is hard to do, we need more women in sports. We need more women sport leaders. We need them at all levels, and it starts with recruiting women into our program. We have a lot. I don't know the number, simply because our roster does not delineate male and female, and there could be some that don't identify. I'm going to guess of the about 75, I think we're at about 20, which would be an all-time high. That is great for us. I hope they all stay in. We have quite a few that are freshmen and sophomores, but we need more women in sport. Sport historically has not been welcoming to women, has not been welcoming to people starting families. That is changing. There are national conference calls with college athletics administrators and in pro athletics, some of which I'm on, that are talking about changing the standard of what is acceptable for time off, for family leave time. It's a slow change, but I think that change is coming. And so I would love Marietta College to be at the forefront of producing Kaylee and other student leaders that are female that are going to be in athletics administration one day.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you shedding light on that. So switching gears a little bit here, right? We've been talking about professional development. We've been talking about careers. So I'm going to kick it back to you, Gavin. Kind of, what was your job search like, and how did you use your degree and the things that you learned? But also I saw in the chat from Chris, who is our vice chair on the council, asking what made you want to pursue a master's degree? So it's kind of a twofold question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting route that I took. And, it was one of those things that came down to it where, I really wanted to expand my knowledge and dive deeper, while also not knowing whether, like I said earlier, I was like pro all the way. And then I was like, well, I kind of like this like college athletics world. So, it was kind of that in between of wanting to expand that knowledge. And I've always been kind of the lifelong learner, type of person, but also trying to still figure out where I wanted to go and gain that kind of extra piece to my puzzle. Right. And so, I put some feelers out for grad school. And it was something that kind of came down to the last second, where I was like, you know what, maybe this grad school thing isn't for me. It wasn't kind of going the way I expected it to. And then at the, couple weeks before graduating, I got the offer to come to Ohio University to get my master's of sport administration. And it seemed like a kind of no-brainer at the moment. And, it allowed me to kind of just further, my knowledge that Marietta College offered me. And it, really dive deep into, the portion of the sports industry that I wanted to get into. So that's kind of what drove me into grad school, and allowed me the opportunity to just kind of dive deeper into, Marietta College obviously offered me this great landscape and kind of high, perspective on the industry and everything like that. But I really kind of wanted to get into the weeds on, a different couple pieces in college athletics, and it allowed me to do so. So using that though, I was able to get a graduate assistantship here, and then got offered the job in April. But really, it was the ability that, and operations at the college level. It's really this in between of internally, how am I organizing, how am I, putting on events, but also there's this external portion, which I think, the curriculum that Rick has, put together, and I was able to really embrace that aspect of it, in the sense that, I wasn't just, focused on the internal perspective, but also had some of that fan perspective. How are people coming into the stadiums? Where are they going once they're in the stadiums? And able to crunch those numbers with a couple other of the B&E classes. So that really helped me in it and gave me an extra edge, to be quite frank, and getting this position. So
Perfect. Yeah. So I love to hear that, where you went to go get your graduate degree is where you have found full-time employment. I think having that tie to an institution kind of on a personal level, because you were a student, is always really nice. I think you bring that passion. So for those of you that are paying attention to the chat, there was a question posed by Paul around, will there be a master's in sports management? And Rick put a comment in there, in short, no, and there's reasons to it, and I'll let you guys read that, but I thought that would be something really important to look at. And then also there was another question around kind of the general curriculum of sports management and incorporating the liberal arts, because all of us had many different majors, but there's always, the English, the communications. I think it was Tyler said he's taking an art class, or maybe it was Gavin. I can't remember, but yeah, there's a lot going on. So you can check that out in the chat, just to be mindful of time. Okay, so I think Tyler and Kaylee, you guys kind of touched on this. You've touched on the direction that you want to go and the things that you're working on, but what are really your true professional career plans, right? And that can be immediate once you graduate, even to a 3 to 5 year plan. And I think last time I started with Kaylee, so I'll start with Tyler.
So once graduation comes, I kind of have two paths that I'm going to be able to ride parallel together, and I haven't decided which one that I'm leaning towards. One would just be to find a job, whether that's an entry-level job or somewhere in a professional setting, a special professional sports team. The other one would be graduate school. Like Gavin said earlier, kind of getting off those blinders between collegiate athletics and professional athletics. And that's kind of been where my mind has been at for a while. I've always thought, I don't want to work in college. I don't want to do that. I want to be in professional athletics. And, just having conversations with certain people, that is definitely kind of shifting a little bit. And so there are options for me immediately after I graduate, and I'm just going to kind of ride that wave and see what happens with that. I'm not exactly sure what the future holds in that regard. But I do know a little bit later down the road, I definitely want to work in a people setting, working with people, kind of being in a, whether it's an HR rep or working as just a people operations side of things, because I've done ticket sales, I've done that stuff, and it's okay, but it's definitely not something that I could see myself doing for my entire life.
For sure. But I think those type of ticket sales, I think if you have those type of interactions, whether it's that or working in retail of some sort, you just get those very quick people interactions, and they're important. You have to, you're customer facing ultimately. So you have to build up your people skills. So I think that's great. And always having an open mind, like you said, you're going to kind of try and figure it out. And I think that's important. Gonna pass it to Kaylee. I hear that you have an internship over in the UK.
Yeah, so this summer I am going to London to intern with a sports team. I've kind of always wanted to study abroad, but when we came in my freshman year, it was when COVID was really heavy. And I talked with Christy, the study abroad lady, and she just was like, it's really going to be more of a virtual internship. And I was like, that's not really what I'm looking for. So I waited, and then this summer is just like the perfect opportunity for me to do so. So right now I'm preparing for that, doing all the paperwork, booking my flights, like all of that fun stuff.
Are you allowed to share? Oh, sorry. Are you allowed to share which team you're interning with yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry. But as for career goals, I want to be a college athletic director, probably in event management. Starting freshman year, I was like thinking maybe high school athletic director. And then as I've done the various job shadows, I know that I want to be in college athletics. This past summer, I did an internship with the Akron Rubber Ducks in their ticketing department. And that was just a little too slow paced for me. I'm a person that likes to be on the go all the time and doing a lot. And so just sitting there selling tickets, doing cold calls, that just wasn't really my type of area that I wanted to work in. And so, yeah, like Rick just said in the chat, it's the best way to get in because not everybody likes it and it's not easy to accomplish. But in my short-term goals, I am looking to go to grad school after graduation. Not sure where yet, but I'm thinking because I do want to work in college athletics, it would benefit me to have my master's.
Perfect. Well, good luck over in London. There's a guy on this call named Jim Metcalf, who I may or may not know, but he used to work in London and spend time there. So if you ever need some tips or anything like that, I'm sure he would be more than willing to share his experiences over there.
Anytime.
All right.
Katie.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left, so I do want to be mindful of time. And I want to go ahead and just wrap it up with kicking it back to you, Gavin, talking about the college just in general. I know we've kind of talked a lot about experiential learning and the liberal arts, but if you kind of had to sum it up in a sentence of your favorite part of your MC experience, or what was the most valuable, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be your degree specifically, but what did you find to be the most valuable thing when you were a student?
Yeah, I think it's got to be, I think about this a lot, and, looking back, and it wasn't that long ago, but I think it has to be just the community aspect of Marietta College that really just, you're able to go down the hallway and just pose a question, something, see something on Wall Street Journal, and at the time, I was only D1 ticker, and just flooding my inboxes with sports articles. But something could come up and marketing or something like that, and go ask those professors what their thoughts on it were. So while Rick and I have spent many times in his office just chatting about the newest updates and things like that, but it really was, I could go to anyone and we could have a conversation. So really just that community aspect, but also the ability just to get your hands dirty and figure out, whether it's the scary ticket sales, you're able to find that out and move forward with it if you really love it, or you're able to pivot. And I think that's the great piece of it, that there's options. So, while, operations and events might not be for everyone, and I feel like I say this a lot, but, it's not for everyone, but you're able to pivot, and there's plenty of people that are willing to help, find where you best see fit. So I think that's got to be the kind of the leader in my memories and things like that when looking back.
And I think your point about pivoting is important, especially kind of in the world that we live in. Uncertain times right now, you might find something brand new or something new might arise. We'll just keep sticking with NIL, right? You have to be able to pivot and you have to be able to flex with the times. And it seems like the world is just moving at a faster and faster rate. Even upon when I graduated almost a decade ago, the world just seems to have, just skyrocketed. So good points there. And so now I want to ask Kaylee, what do you think, and this kind of gets back to one of the questions that I think Paul had put in here about the liberal arts education. What do you think the impact of the liberal arts had on you while pursuing this degree?
Yeah, so I think the biggest part is the communication part, whether that's written or oral communication. It's impacted me a lot. During my internships, I'm constantly sending emails, calling people, getting in contact. Just knowing how to create a personal relationship with a customer or a fan is huge because that can make a big difference. Another thing that came up was we have the foreign language requirement, and at the rubber ducks there were a lot of family members of the players who spoke Spanish, and although I was nowhere near fluent or anything like that, I was able to pick up little tidbits and be able to help them and get them the ticket so that they could get inside to see their loved ones.
And I think your point about communication, written or verbal, not only is a great professional skill, but it's a great personal or life skill. And so I think if you have those skills, it'll take you a long way. It will, whether it's in your career or for personal life. Gavin, what about you, about your liberal arts? Can't steal the communication one from Kaylee, but if you had another liberal arts tidbit, what would you share?
Yeah, I think it allows, more broadly speaking, I think it allows for an added level of confidence in yourself and in what you're talking about. I'm able to go to budget meetings and feel confident that, all my tables and charts and budget layouts are all, what they should be, and the bottom line is there. So I think it just adds that extra level of, confidence and taking it to, I can have a conversation with our athletic director and know that, the numbers that I've crunched and things like that are sound, and I'm able to express those.
Perfect. I'm going to toss it back to you, Rick, because there was a question about the internships that are available.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I can talk for a long time on internships and the disappointment of the available internships. So internships in sports will start with the ugly. They're unpaid, and that's a majority. There are some that are paid, but the majority are unpaid. And as I sat on a conference call last year with about 40 other instructors across the country in sport management, we all said the same thing. Unpaid internships are unfortunately creating a racial bias. And it is not fair to minorities or others that cannot afford an unpaid internship to do these internships. The story I tell is of a student at Marietta College who was a sport management major, still wants to work in sports, but has no way of completing an internship. So they had to change their major. That cannot happen. We cannot allow the sport industry to dictate who gets in because of the wealth they have or because they have a car to be able to drive to an internship. So that's first. Next is the internships in the summer are available. They're great. They're available at minor league baseball teams, which are the greatest internships you can have. And of course, there's some at the YMCA's and at the events in the Western Southern Open Tennis Tournament. But for the most part, minor league baseball dominates the internship field. Well, there's a problem with that. Minor league baseball is only in certain cities, and there's a lot of them. But if you live in Marietta, Ohio, you can't get a summer internship, at least not with minor league baseball. The third problem with internships, And I think this is more of a cultural problem, and it's not a bad thing because Marietta is a regional institution that most of our students come from a 150-mile radius. And not many of them want to move away for summer internships, right? We've had calls from teams in Florida, Texas, California, Seattle, you name it. Pro teams, college teams, whatever. They would love to have our students. But at an unpaid internship, to ask a student to move across the country to live in LA for 3 months in a furnished apartment at $4,000 a month to be an unpaid intern simply is asinine, to be honest with you. But there's lights on the horizon. There's a bright light on the horizon, and that's working with the Career Center. For the last few years, the Career Center staffs have helped fund some of these internships with a couple of hundreds of dollars here and there to help afford funding for gas and for fuel. People's Bank and their $1 million gift for the merged entity of the McDonough Center for Leadership and Business with the Department of Business and Economics. Of that $1 million, this year we carved out $35,000 so students can apply for money to go on experiences, whether it's the Savannah Bananas or the Boca Raton Bowl or an internship, but it's still not enough. Most common, our students are completing internships at minor league baseball. Some are completing them at facilities. Once in a while, we'll get a professional team. Last year, we had 2 at the Savannah Bananas. This year, we have 2 finalists. That requires moving, right? Tyler moved from Ohio to Savannah, Georgia for a small stipend, lived in a house with 4 or 5 or 6 other people. However, it was like watching MTV Real World, probably when we were growing up in the 90s. But those are also some of the greatest experiences you can have. Because when Tyler and Natty looked around and they said, this is what we do for our internship portfolio for Rick, the other ones were like, wow, all we have to do is write a paper. And so it goes to show that Marietta College still prepares our students better. Even with the same internship experience that other schools are having, our students are reflecting more. They're doing more work to comprehend what they're learning, and they're able to explain it more. So that's a long internship answer. The Day of Giving coming up on February 14th. Sport management is one of those areas where people can give for these internships and for the experiential education. Internships are expensive. My internship senior year, I was able to drive because I have parents that supported me from Boca Raton, Florida, 60 miles south to Miami to work at a news station for an unpaid internship. I don't know how else I would have been able to afford it. So internships are a nasty, ugly, but necessary thing, because if you don't have internships, you will not get hired in sports. That's the other thing. You need them to get hired, but we need the funding to get students there.
Always kind of a cat and mouse game. And it seems like a lot of industries have moved away from unpaid internships, but sports seems to be one of them, kind of government related work as well. But hopefully that changes because unpaid labor is not fair. So one thing you did mention, Rick, that I wanted to reiterate quickly is the Day of Giving, which is happening on Valentine's Day. And he mentioned that, the sports management department is a designation that you can make. And so some of the issues and the barriers and the vision we have for the program, this is going to help with that. And then also we have other competitions between Greek life and different sports. There we go. Yeah, different sports competitions. And so remember, it's not the amount you're donating. It's just the fact that you donate. It can be $1, it can be $5, it can be $500, but $1 is better than 0. So we're looking for overall participation amongst the alumni group. So with that, first, thank you all for being candid and answering these questions, but we have 5 minutes. And I do want to open it up to any questions from anyone that's on the line. It could even be from the panelists, but I do want to leave, 5 minutes to make sure that some questions can be answered.
Okay, we can't be like my students now when I ask for questions and no one in class answers. We're not going to rush to lunch now. So someone's got to ask a question.
Maybe before the questions, I'd like to just, I tuned in because of Brittany mainly, but I would like to say how well done this really was and how much I learned and appreciate being brought up to speed on how I was a petroleum engineer and a rower, but how, hearing from other current student athletes and students and hearing what's going on was extremely informative. So thank you.
Thanks, Dad.
And thanks for Brittany for being such a great host.
Hey, Douglas did most of the work. He gave me a script. I ran with it. We're good. But enough about us. I want to make sure that questions can get answered. I know people like Paul and Jim Wilson always have great questions. I know there's a few others on here. So the floor is yours. I see Paul went off mute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, just as a thought, I live in central Massachusetts, sort of equidistant between Springfield to the west and Worcester to the east. Some of you may know that for a long time, the Boston Red Sox had their farm team in Pawtucket, and now it's in Worcester, Massachusetts. And they have built an absolutely stunningly beautiful stadium. It's called Polar Park. Polar Beverages, which some of you may be familiar with, are headquartered in Worcester, Massachusetts. Is a fabulous. I think it's only 3 years since the stadium was built. The area in downtown Worcester where the stadium was built is being completely redone. It's absolutely beautiful. So if any of your students, Rick, are interested in coming to New England, perhaps to do to scout out opportunities in New England, that might be one that they might want to take a look at. I'm not familiar with the operation, just that it's fabulous. Worcester has just embraced this team, and of course, if you live anywhere near Boston, Massachusetts, you live and die by what the Red Sox do every day. So keep that in mind as an opportunity, at least in the northeast part of the United States.
Thank you, Paul. Even as a Yankees fan, I can appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm a Yankees fan who ended up in the Boston area, but I have to be careful about my Yankee roots.
Yep.
It's okay. I'm a Houston Astros fan, so everyone hates me as well. So great comment there, Paul. I appreciate it. Any other questions, commentary?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Just building off of what Paul just said, I mean, it made me think that there's probably great opportunities if money's an issue, and trying to offset some of those opportunities, the expenses of them. There's probably a network of alums where potentially people might be able to work something out too. So in terms of housing.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too. Of course, there's no teams around Lake Conroe, but I mean, you know, I have empty nesters that have, you know, extra bedrooms that, you know, it could be something that the alumni could, you know, engage in, you know, for periods of time. Obviously, you don't want someone moving in for 2 years, but for, you know, it's that period of time, it might be an avenue. I mean, I think of, you know, back in the day, you know, with rowing and stuff, and Jim, I'm sure you can attest to it, they didn't stay at hotels and everything. You booked with whoever's parents lived in that area. And, you know, when we were in the Philadelphia area and the DC area, both, we would have, you know, the team for, you know, 3 days or something, or, you know, 5 or 6, or at least a boat. And so there may be some opportunities that might be worth exploring in that area.
And I think to that as well, Hani and Chris, is that, you know, going back to Rick's point about people being intimidated or a little anxious about moving far away. Well, if you could offset that cost, and then there could be someone that maybe there's some sort of mutual something, it could maybe ease the transition. So I understand that can be intimidating, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we've explored some of that. That's something that's on our radar. It would take a special student, and we have some of them, to take that leap. And I think those that were on the line tonight are some of those special students. Another student on the line here is Hunter Stone, who I think would be one that his parents may let him move away. We also get the idea of the students who's 19 saying, I don't want to move into somewhere I don't know. So there's that too.
Hey, I went to West Texas between my sophomore and junior year as a petroleum engineer, and I was female, Yankee, Irish, Catholic. I had all the things against me that I had no idea of, but
you're right. It's an avenue that we continue to explore. I appreciate what you guys said, and we'll definitely keep that front of mind.
Great.
Yeah, I wonder if we created a group on People Grove of people who have rooms available potentially, and then maybe we could build that into the culture of when you're looking for an internship, you can also look on People Grove at this group and see if anyone in that area may have a room available. So we could probably make that a more
Great idea.
common principle. I wanted to piggyback one thing on what Paul said about the Woo Sox. They do take a lot of interns. Even before they had the facility built, I was teaching sport management in central Massachusetts, and they gave lots of opportunities. They were super friendly to college students. And of course, they have some in the Worcester area now too. And they even let us write SWOT reports for them. When I taught a senior capstone, we filed SWOT reports with the Woo Sox, and they took what we said and they would come back and give us feedback. So it is a very college friendly minor league team, as many of them are. So if we have students that are interested in getting out to New England, that would be a soft landing. And we do, I think, have enough alumni that might have some bedrooms for them to cut down on cost.
For sure. I think it kind of just starts with asking and probing, and then maybe it's something that we can build that out. Well, I do again want to be mindful of time here. It looks like we're about 2 minutes past the hour here, but I just want to thank, first of all, our panelists, all, Rick, Kaylee, Tyler, Gavin. Thank you guys so much for taking your evening with us today to inform us of everything that is going on. And Douglas, thanks for you and your committee for putting this together. And good luck to Kaylee and Tyler with everything that's going on. And I will give you your evening back. But thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Britt.